It's great to be in the SEC. You're listening to the SEC Recap Podcast, back with another bowl preview, this time the Orange Bowl, the orangest of Orange Bowls, the Tennessee Volunteers versus the Clemson Tigers. I'm going to give you the full preview, breakdown, and score prediction. You're listening to the SEC Recap Podcast. Welcome into the Orange Bowl episode. You're listening to the SEC Recap Podcast. I am your host, Ben Warren. If you're listening in audio form on Google, Apple, Spotify, thank you so much for joining us. Don't hit pause. Don't hit stop. Go and leave a rating and review. It helps me out a ton. It helps me grow the show. And if you're back on YouTube, I got to say a couple things real quick. It's now December 26th when I'm recording this. On December 23rd, which was my birthday, by the way, I hit 50 subs here on this channel. And I sent out a big thank you on YouTube and Twitter. And I said, I appreciate you guys. Today, on December 26th, by the time I sat down to record this, I am at 99 subscribers. I don't know how that happened. That South Carolina Notre Dame video has been blowing up. But I am now one subscriber shy of 100. So if I haven't hit that Hundy mark by the time you're watching this video, smash that thumbs up, sub to the channel. I just can't express my appreciation enough to all of you for the positive feedback I've been getting on these videos, on the show in general. You guys have just been amazing. I love the support. I love engaging. I love seeing your scores, your predictions. It's all phenomenal. So I wanted to get that out of the way. The last 3, 4, 5 days of this podcast have been unreal, and that is all thanks to you guys. Now, I know why you're here. It's to talk about Tennessee Clemson in the Orange Bowl. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see I am decked out in my Tennessee gear. I've got my orange on. I'm a Tennessee fan. That's my home team. I'm an alumni. I try to be as impartial as I can when I'm talking about other teams and doing other previews, but it's hard for me not to be a little bit biased when I'm talking about my Tennessee Vols. So I've got my orange on. I've got my drink here ready to go in my Vols orange koozie. And I've even got my old pal Smokey here sitting alongside me. He's going to be helping me out and supporting me through this episode. Guys, no more wasting time. Let's dive in. Tennessee versus Clemson, the Orange Bowl. This is December 30th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time in Miami, Florida. We have the number 6 Tennessee Volunteers getting a slice of the number 7 Clemson Tigers in the most Orange Bowl the college football gods could bless us with. Now, when making the preview graphic for this matchup, let me maximize this here on YouTube. I love this one. It's my favorite one I've done so far. I was experimenting with each team's alternate colors because I just thought initially the orange on orange wasn't going to work for a preview graphic, for a thumbnail graphic. So I was looking at Clemson's regalia purple and Tennessee's smoky gray. And the reason is, in my personal experience as a fan of a team of orange seems to be a polarizing color, far more than other hues in the college football spectrum. As a Tennessee fan, I have come to learn that people either love the orange or they absolutely despise it. I'm not sure if Clemson fans experience the same reaction within the state of South Carolina, but even in the state of Tennessee, let me tell you, there are many people who simply cannot stand this color orange. But this video ain't for folks who hate orange. This video, this game, this bowl matchup is especially for people who love orange. So I did away with the alternate color palettes. I simply leaned into all of that orange. Orange on orange on orange on orange. And I love the final product. I love the way the graphic came out. If you want to save it, if you like it, if you want to copy it, you can check out the article. That link is in the description. I paste that right at the top of my article for the preview graphic. So you can save it, share it, do whatever you want. It's just so vibrant and alive. It represents the atmosphere that will be in this game. 2 top 10 programs from the American Southeast with so much history, 2 fan bases with so much pride and passion for their programs. This one is for people who bleed orange through the good times and the bad times. Tennessee Volunteers, Clemson Tigers, man, I cannot wait to see that stadium packed with the best color in college football. Orange, you glad you tuned in for this episode? All right, let's look at the stats. As always, I love to start with the offense. Let me maximize this for you guys. As I always say, you can get these graphics in my article. Just click on the link in the episode description, whether you're on the podcast or whether you're here on YouTube. You can save these, share these. I do these for free for you guys always. Okay, Tennessee Vols. Red hot offense all season. They are still coming into this game with the number 1 offense in the country. 47.3 points per game, 538 total yards per game. They have the number 3 passing offense by the stats, 332 passing yards per game, 35 patties. That's passing tutties, passing touchdowns, if you're unfamiliar or new to my verbiage. The number 3 passing attack. The number 18 rushing attack, 206 rushing yards per game, 39 ruddies. That's rushing tutties on the season. Clemson, meanwhile, a very good offense as well. I know they've had some ups and downs at the quarterback position. We're going to talk about all of that here just a little bit later. The number 25 scoring offense in the country, 34.7 points per game, over 400 total yards, 404 to be exact. They have the number 72 passing offense by yardage, 225 passing yards per game, 24 passing tutties on the year, and the number 46 rushing offense by yards, 179 rushing yards per game, 30 rushing tutties. So we're going to talk about personnel. We're going to talk about injuries, opt-outs, transfers, all of that stuff here after we look at the stats. But just by these numbers, I have to give the offensive advantage to Tennessee. We'll see how that shakes out a little differently when we see who's in, who's out of this game. But for now, just by the stats, offensive advantage goes to Tennessee. Let's flip it on over and look at the defensive side of the ball. Now, Tennessee's defense has caught so much crap all season, and I'm not going to say all of it is unwarranted. Most of it has been due to the atrocious pass defense. But when you look at them overall as a scoring defense, it might surprise people. They're number 45 in scoring defense. They've given up 23.5 points per game and just under 400 total yards, 399 yards on average a game. Now, what skews this defense is how bad they've been against the pass. Number 127 in the country versus the pass. That is just 4 or 5 spots away from worst in the league. 287 passing yards per game given up. They've given up 21 passing touchdowns. So they've really given up more by yards than they have by scores. And I think that's an important distinction to look at when you're trying to work out how does Tennessee have the number 45 scoring defense and such a bad pass defense. They give up a lot more yards than they do points. But here's one thing that swings that pendulum back the other way. It's that rushing defense. They've been pretty consistently a top 20 rushing defense all season. Just 112 yards given up on the ground. They've allowed 14 rushing tutties on the ground. And Tennessee is +9 in turnover margin. It doesn't feel that way for those of you like me who've watched them all season. You know, they've really lacked in the interception game. It feels like there haven't been a lot of those big turnover plays. There's been some. I'm not going to go through and itemize them all for you guys here. It's not what we're doing. But to see that they're +9 in turnover margin, this defense is getting turnovers. And net, they've gained 9 more turnovers than the offense has committed. They've had few fumbling problems, but you got to remember, Tennessee's quarterbacks, Hendon Hooker, only 2 interceptions on the year. Joe Milton, I know he hasn't played a lot of minutes, but 0 interceptions on the year. Or he might have 1, because I think he threw a Hail Mary in one of the games and it ended up getting intercepted in the end zone. But I think total only 3 interceptions on the season for those 2 guys. That's really good. I might be wrong on that Hail Mary interception. Don't blast me in the comments. I'm trying to remember this off the top of the dome. Regardless, +9, really, really solid. All right, let's look at Clemson. Very, very good scoring defense. Number 19 in the country. They've allowed just 20.1 points per game to opponents, 331 total yards. They have the number 75 pass defense. So not a terrific, not a game-changing pass defense, but when you compare it to Tennessee, it is magnitudes better. 230 passing yards per game allowed, 18 passing touchdowns allowed on the season. But look at this rushing defense. Number 10 rushing defense. We thought Tennessee's was good at 20. Clemson's top 10 here. Just 101 rushing yards allowed per game. 11 ruddies, that's rushing tutties. Clemson just +1 in turnover margin. So that's not bad. Being positive is always better than being neutral or being negative. But compare the turnover margin to Tennessee, man. +9 to +1. But still, I got to give the statistical advantage here to Clemson. When you look at all the numbers, number 19 scoring defense, by yards, they're giving up fewer yards. Even that turnover margin for Tennessee isn't enough to swing that back the Vols' way. So defensive advantage here goes to Clemson. Offense, giving that edge to Tennessee. Defense, we're going to Clemson here. All right, let's take a look at injuries, opt-outs, and transfers, and we'll start with Tennessee. And as everyone, I almost don't even need to mention this one, but most people know, if you followed the SEC or you followed Tennessee, Hendon Hooker, the starting QB all season, is out with a torn ACL. He went down in near the end of the South Carolina game. Joe Milton came in. He's taken over the starting job. Joe Milton will be the starter in this game. He is the only one I have on the injury list right now. All of this could update in real time before you guys see it. As far as opt-outs go, we did have one late opt-out edition as of yesterday when I was checking. So most people know that Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman have opted out. 2 stud wide receivers. It was Jalen Hyatt's year. Biletnikoff Award winner. The guy went berserk. He was the SEC receiving yards leader by a million miles. I mean, it was like 1,200 something yards, and the next was like 400 yards less. I think it was Antoine Wells. I think it was Juice Wells for South Carolina was second with like 800 something. So Jalen Hyatt just blew the doors off the season, had an amazing year. Thought it would be more of a Cedric Tillman year. He had that unfortunate injury against that dirty game with Akron. I'm not going to rehash that. That really derailed him, but it kind of let Jalen Hyatt come alive in the rest of the season. Those 2 guys out for this game. Also out for this game. New addition, as of yesterday, Jeremy Banks. He is also declared for the NFL draft. Now, there's a lot of speculation out there that he wasn't going to be academically eligible. That's part of the speculation why he wasn't available in that South Carolina game where the Tennessee defense just got torched. You saw how different that defense was without Jeremy Banks in that game. I don't know that translates here. It seems maybe the team probably already knew he wasn't going to be available for the Orange Bowl. Maybe they've shuffled some things around and have more of a plan in place, and it's not so much a shock to that system. But regardless, Jeremy Banks was an all-SEC class linebacker. I mean, not having him is going to hurt, especially in that run defense. I worry about Tennessee's run defense a little bit more without Jeremy Banks there. He just flies the ball. Not great as a coverage guy, but really great against the run. Okay, transfers. Jimmy Callaway is the latest. I think Lenith Whitehead and maybe a couple others earlier on before the end of the season announced that they were going to hit the portal. But Jimmy Callaway, he's played 28 or so snaps, I think, this year. I think a lot of talent there, untapped talent. He was doing some punt return and kickoff return. Just quite couldn't make it onto the field in the role that he wanted to be. So it's looking like he's just wanted to go somewhere else and get some other opportunities. Don't fault him for that at all. I wish him the best. Now, two other guys who have declared for the draft but will play in this bowl game, Darnell Wright and Byron Young. Darnell Wright, that right tackle, super athletic, glad he's back on that offensive line. I know Joe Milton's glad he's back on that offensive line. And this defense is certainly glad to have Byron Young back for this bowl game. Those two guys will be Sunday players. In what capacity, I don't know, but happy for them that they're moving on to the draft. Happier that they're going to be back in this bowl game. And then finally, worth mentioning here for people who don't follow the SEC, Alex Golesh, the offensive coordinator for the past 2 years at Tennessee, has taken the head coaching job at University of Southern Florida. He will not be coaching in this game, but this is Josh Heupel's offense. I'm not really worried about the play calling. I'm not worried about the scheme. You think that maybe if Alex Golesh had stayed around, he and Josh Heupel really could have scripted some nice stuff against this Clemson defense. But regardless, Josh Heupel is the central cog that keeps that offense spinning. Not worried about it all. Wish Alex Golesh the best. That's Southern Florida. That's a tough job. But if anybody can do it, he can do it. All right, let's look at Clemson. Injuries here. I have wide receiver Bo Collins' shoulder out for the season, and I think that happened a few weeks ago. And then linebacker Trenton Simpson with an ankle injury is out. I'm not sure if he's also declared for the NFL draft. He might have, but regardless, I think due to that injury, he's not available for this bowl game. By the way, guys, I don't follow ACC. I don't follow Big 12. I don't follow Pac-12. I don't follow Big 10. If I've messed up, if you're a Clemson fan and you're watching this and I've messed up these injuries and opt-outs, just let me know in the comments. It's highly probable. I've done it in a couple other of my videos. It's not intentional, I promise. I'm not getting this stuff wrong on purpose. I check 3 to 4 different sources and I aggregate what those sources have to tell me. So if I've missed somebody or I've got it labeled wrong, just let me know in the comments and I can update that in a pinned comment under the video. Be happy to do that. Opt-outs, defensive end Miles Murphy. He's declared for the NFL draft. I think that's a pretty significant one for that Clemson defense. Tennessee fans may be glad to see that, but I'm sure the Tigers fans would love to have him in this game. Run through their transfer list. The biggest name here is quarterback DJ Uiagalelei. Hope I pronounce that right. I try to pronounce all names correctly. Was the starter all season until maybe it was the South Carolina game, or maybe it was the ACC championship versus North Carolina when we saw Cade Klubnik come in and really kind of wow people, say, where has this guy been all year? And when the writing was on the wall that it looked like that was going to be Cade's job moving forward, DJ hit the portal. He'll move on somewhere else. Okay, really quickly, I also have wide receiver Dakari Collins, 61 snaps. Wide receiver EJ Williams just played 1 snap this year. Running back Kobe Pace, I had him listed as RB3 on the depth chart. Linebacker Levanta Bentley, who's played 163 snaps, so not insignificant there. And then linebacker Sergio Allen. So a few defensive opt-outs and transfers for Clemson, who I think the strength of this offense so far has been that defense. Not really worried about them, though. I think that's still a pretty tight unit. All right. Key players. Start with Tennessee again. For me, this game is all about the quarterbacks. Both teams have had quarterback changes. One team had to, Tennessee, because of Hendon Hooker's injury. One team made that change due to play and ability and on-field production, and that was Clemson. So we're going to see 2 pretty new quarterbacks. Joe Milton's not new by any means, but he hasn't started very many games at Tennessee. So Joe Milton comes in with a 63% completion rating. He's 34 of 54 for 720 yards. He's thrown a lot of long balls, okay? So a lot of long balls there. 7 touchdowns. Really nice stat line. He's also added 7 carries for 72 yards. Here's what I want to know in addition to Joe Milton. Which wide receiver is the safety valve? Is it Brew McCoy, who's got 619 yards, 3 tutties on the year? Is it Ramel Keaton? He's had some really big moments. I think Ramel Keaton has quietly been one of the most underrated wide receivers on this team because he has had some huge moments. That catch in the fourth quarter of the Alabama game comes to mind. That diving catch against Florida comes to mind. He's had some big moments. 486 yards, 4 touchdowns. We know that they've already started to use Squirrel White in that Jalen Hyatt type role. He's a speedster. He's a burner. How can they use him in the slot? They get him in space. He's really fast. So I want to see who becomes Joe Milton's go-to safety valve when plays kind of break down and fall apart, as they could against this Clemson defense, who's pretty good at getting to the quarterback. Okay, for Clemson, quarterback Cade Klubnik, 67.4% completion rating. He is 31 of 46 for 377 yards. So he's completed 31 passes. Joe Milton's completed 34. Joe Milton's thrown for 720 yards. Cade Klubnik's thrown for 377. That tells you a lot about these different styles of offense. Tennessee's airing it out a lot. Clemson playing more of a tight passing game. He's got 2 tutties. He's also thrown 1 interception. He's added 22 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. Not a lot of playing time, so those carries are worth mentioning. Then for Clemson, it's not so much the wide receivers I'm worried about. Or not, worry's not even the right word. I'm interested in. It's running back Will Shipley. He's been a star of that offense. Really, really good player. 193 carries, over 1,100 yards, 15 touchdowns on the year. He's also added 34 receptions and 221 yards. So I expect Shipley to be a big part of what Clemson does in the Orange Bowl. All right, keys to the game. What I think this game comes down to. A few things, so bear with me here. This is Tennessee's first New Year's Six Bowl in the college football playoff era. And Clemson has won 2 national championships in that time. Clemson is accustomed to playing on big stages, while Tennessee is sort of relearning how to be in the spotlight. Tennessee's offense is just not going to be the same without Hendon Hooker and without Hyatt and without Tillman. It's just not going to be the same. There's no way around that. It doesn't mean that it can't or won't be effective, but I think the especially optimistic Vols out there should approach this game with tempered expectations. Any Josh Heupel offense is certainly capable of scoring 40-plus points a game against a given opponent. But I don't think that should be the expectation here. I know for a fact Tennessee's coaching staff and players believe in Joe Milton as the QB. I've heard a lot of that from that locker room. There is a reason he was named the starter 2 years ago. There is massive, massive upside, untapped potential there. And I expect them, really I do, I expect them to turn him loose in that game with the showcase of young offensive talent that has already flashed this year. Squirrel White comes to mind. Now, for Clemson, Cade Klubnik threw for 279 yards and a touchdown against North Carolina in the ACC Championship. He also ran for 30 yards and a touchdown. He's got a ton of talent, and Tennessee's defense has a habit of making every quarterback they face look like a Heisman candidate. Vols out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? I know Clemson fans are looking at Tennessee's pass defense and licking their chops. If Klubnik and the Tigers offense did that to the Tar Heels number 121 ranked pass defense, well, surely they can repeat that against the Vols 127 ranked pass defense, right? Well, maybe. But there's some major statistical differences between North Carolina and UT, and I want to point those out real quick. Tennessee's scoring defense is number 45. North Carolina's is number 105. Big difference in total scoring defense. Tennessee's rush defense is number 20. North Carolina's is 82. Tennessee's rush defense by touchdowns allowed is number 40. North Carolina's is number 115. Now, it's fair to say that Tennessee takes a hit in rush defense without Jeremy Banks, but not 60 or 70 spots, okay? Not 60 or 70 spots. Tennessee is +9 in turnover margin. North Carolina is -1. So Overall, even defensively, Tennessee is a much better team than that North Carolina squad that Clemson saw in the ACC Championship. Just as Tennessee shouldn't expect their offense to roll the same minus those key personnel, Clemson should not expect the same performance against Tennessee that they had against the Tar Heels. Just like Vols need to temper their expectations about this offense, I think Clemson fans, you might want to temper expectations when comparing Tennessee's defense to North Carolina's defense. I think Tennessee is going to play you a little tougher than North Carolina did. My fingers are crossed that's the case anyway. Tennessee and Clemson are both top 10 in red zone offense. Tennessee is number 6 at 93%, and Clemson is number 2 at 96%. So these are both good red zone offenses. Tennessee is actually better in red zone defense. And if I just showed you those defensive stats, you might not believe me. Let me flip it back over here really fast. And I know I'm running long on this video, guys. I just can't help it. When I talk about the Vols, I want to talk about the Vols for hours. So when I just show you these defensive stats, and then I told you that Tennessee is better in red zone defense, Tennessee is number 24 at 77%, and Clemson is number 48 in red zone defense, allowing 81% of attempts. You might not believe me, but here we are. That's the case. Both teams are tied for 10th in fourth down conversion rate at 66%. But here's the difference. Clemson is just 6 of 9. Nice, right? On fourth down attempts, while Tennessee is 22 of 33. So Tennessee's attempted a lot more fourth downs. That is a go for it on fourth down type of offense. Clemson is not, okay? Clemson is much better at getting to the quarterback. They've got 40 sacks on the year. That's 12th in the FBS, while both teams have allowed 24 sacks on the season. So there's some keys. Those are some of the things that I'm watching for in these matchups. Let's check out the odds. ESPN's FPI has Tennessee favored at a 57.4% chance to win versus Clemson at a 42.6% chance to win. But Vegas favors Clemson at -5.5, as does the money line at -225. The over-under at the time I'm recording is 63 and a hook, with team totals for Tennessee at 28.2 and Clemson for 34.9. So for some reason, computers like Tennessee, and I think a lot of that has to do with the numbers that Hooker and Hyatt put up over the course of the season, while Vegas likes Clemson. So I think the computers are looking at those stats while odd makers are factoring in to what degree available and unavailable personnel affect the outcome of this game. When I look at the opt-outs for Tennessee, their vulnerabilities on defense, it's kind of hard for me to feel most optimistic about the Vols in this game. Tennessee would need to take really good care of the ball and capitalize on a turnover or two on defense. Tennessee plays best when they jump out to a really fast lead and then are able to just run the ball at tempo with that threat of hitting you over the top if they catch the defense out of place. That's when you see that offense at its best. I don't know if they get afforded that opportunity. I trust Josh Heupel to have some things scripted against Dabo, but Dabo also has a lot more time to prepare for Tennessee than any team has all season. If Tennessee gets a fast lead, I think the Vols can hang on to it and close this game out. If they don't, and they're just playing catch up, I like Clemson's chances in this game. Everything about me, when I look at the numbers that I've shown you, those offensive and defensive matchups, those red zone statistics, the offensive and defensive line matchups, everything in me screams pick Clemson over Tennessee, because that's my goal here, right? I'm an SEC fan, I'm a Tennessee fan, but I want to pick this game as closely and as accurately as possible. Everything's screaming at me to pick Clemson in this game. But Tennessee is 9-3 against the spread. Clemson is 7-6. 5.5 points might be too many to give a Josh Heupel offense on a sunny, neutral field in Miami. Their defense is going to need some stops. Like, they're going to need stops. But if they can get them, and that offense goes over 30, I like Tennessee. So give me Clemson 31. Smokey's telling me something. Clemson 31, Tennessee 35. The Vols get it done. Vols win their first New Year's Six Bowl in the college football playoff era. They shut up a little bit of that Dabo Swinney smoke, and they get some bragging rights in the Southeast. I'm sticking with my Vols in this one. I haven't picked against them all season, and I've only lost twice. So I'll take my chances and roll the dice with one more. How about them apples? Guys, actually, I should say, how about them oranges? Thank you so much for tuning in to the SEC Recap Podcast. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at SEC Recap. And if you've liked this, sub to the channel, like this video, smash that thumbs up, leave your final score and your prediction in the comments. I love seeing those, and I try to engage with each and every single one. Thank you so much. I don't know if I'm going to get many more of these out before all of the bowl games this weekend, but regardless, hope you've enjoyed this one. Hope all my Vols fans out there know that I am with you this weekend in this bowl game. I want to beat Clemson so bad. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a great New Year. We still got college football taking us into 2023. I will catch you on the next one right here. Can't wait to see you on the SEC Recap Podcast.